my name's Nikki. This is The Interventionalist, and today I want to talk about loneliness, particularly queer loneliness and connection, just because my lesbianism has really heavily contributed to the loneliness that I've experienced in my life and the kinds of loneliness and the difficulty I've had with forming connections or like finding community. And I also got a comment recently from someone who's struggling with this, like finding queer connections and feeling lonely. And feeling lonely after coming out because of the connections that are lost. And it's something that I struggle with. I struggled with a lot. I was like a very lonely child. Like I was a very lonely kid and often a very lonely adult. And even now, like I really struggle with like intense feelings of loneliness. Recently in my life, I've really struggled with that, which I guess I'll talk about. But it pretty much has always, in some way or another, a lot of the times come back to the loneliness I feel because of my queerness and like feeling out of place or having to repress that part of myself or not being able to like be openly discuss that aspect of my identity or my life experiences that are a result of it that heavily impact me, and that has led to like a lot of loneliness in relationships that I have. And it also had me thinking about the book The Well of Loneliness by Radclyffe, which was like a staple piece of lesbian fiction for a really long time. It was written in like the 1920s, and people have mixed thoughts on it. I actually really liked it. I think it can be kind of a dry book, though. Some of my favorite books, like people tend to think are really dry, so maybe that's just my taste. But I really liked it because it's the first like fiction book that I've read that I felt like depicted the loneliness that I felt in my own life really well, where I read it and I was like, oh my God, like I feel that. Like I actually, like, this feels like my own inner dialogue about loneliness and feeling like I'm always on the outside looking in of connection. And I think that's a huge aspect or a huge contributor to the loneliness that you feel when you're queer, especially when you're closeted, but even when you're not, is the way that there's such a huge part of you. And the more that you repress it or the more that you're not able to express it or talk about it, the bigger it becomes. The impact that it has on you expands. It impacts you even more than it would if you just expressed it to begin with, because now it creates all of these like nuanced issues that come with having to repress a part of yourself and your identity. So like it just grows with its impact on you. And if you're suppressing it or you're not allowing yourself to talk about it, or you can't talk about it, and so you can't be all of who you are in front of another person, you can never really be truly seen or truly known. And the extent to which you'll feel connected to or you can connect with others will always be stunted. And that's an incredibly lonely feeling, to always feel like you're unable to truly form honest, authentic connection because there's a huge part of yourself that is walled off, I guess, is closed off. And knowing that you don't have an option to, I guess, break down that wall and connect with somebody, so you're always aware of the lack within the relationship. And I think sometimes like queer loneliness, like before you even come out, or sometimes you even like have these realizations about yourself, I think a lot of the times like queer people will grow up feeling a really intense sort of loneliness without having a reason why, or not really being able to pinpoint what it is that is causing them to feel so lonely, even within their friendships or within people around them or people that they love, or feeling lonely in a room full of people, because you don't know what it is about yourself that you're not expressing, and that because of that, you're not being connected to. And so there's just like a really intense loneliness that I think is kind of pervasive within the queer community. And because of that, I don't know, I already said this, but I always felt like I was on the outside looking into all these people that seemingly had this capacity to connect and had these connections. Like they didn't feel lonely. And I was always so envious. I just wanted that so badly. And now that I'm older, I can see where being closeted had such a huge impact on that. And I'll talk about why I think that. But in The Well of Loneliness, there's some quotes that I think really highlight this, like that feeling. And one of them that really stuck with me is when the main character, Steven, who is a lesbian in this book, though I think this can definitely extend far beyond lesbianism if you want to, especially related to like gender nonconformity and all this stuff, but just seeing it from the perspective of being queer in general and the loneliness that comes with it. In this, the main character Steven is like standing with a group of girls, or talking about like being in a group of girls. And this is how the book describes that experience for her, the main character. And it says, "There she would stand with her strong arms folded and her face somewhat strained in an effort of attention. While despising these girls, she yet longed to be like them. Yes, indeed, at such moments she longed to be like them. It would suddenly strike her that they seemed very happy, very sure of themselves as they gossiped together. There was something so secure in their feminine conclaves, a secure sense of oneness, of mutual understanding. Each in turn understood the other's ambitions. They might have their jealousies, their quarrels even, but always she discerned underneath that sense of oneness. And then not long after that part, there's a line that I also think is really, I don't know, it just really highlights this. And it says, she had not yet learnt that the loneliest place in this world is the no man's land of sex, which I think just speaks to the experience of loneliness when you fall outside of the norms related to sexuality, sexual orientation, the binary, gender. There's like a no man's land, like no one else is there to be with you. And I don't know, it like the concept of like there being this sense of oneness that the main character doesn't seem to be able to be a part of. You always kind of just feel like there's something wrong with you. Like, why can't I be a part of this? Like, I don't understand. I'm standing with a group of people and theoretically, like, I should feel connected to them and I don't. And I think something else that this can lead to that I've just noticed is forming a lot of one-sided relationships. And I think it's because you can connect with other people because theoretically assuming that they're not hiding any aspects of themselves, like they don't have anything about themselves that they feel like they need to repress for whatever reason, like they're not closeting, I guess, a part of themselves. So other people can, if you're making them feel safe enough, stand in front of you as a whole person and sort of bear it all. And because of that, they can feel really connected to and really seen. But because you can't do the same if you're closeted, they can't connect to you the same way. And so you're able to connect with them and see them and offer them that level of connection and that bonding experience for them, but it's never able to really be returned. So I think a lot of relationships lack genuine reciprocity, which is incredibly lonely and also really exhausting. Having one-sided relationships where there's lack of reciprocity, like the person who's essentially offering more connection is just gonna exhaust themselves eventually. I think it'll always catch up to you and you'll hit this point of like, I don't have anything left to give anymore. And I don't even think it means that people are always trying to take and take and take without being reciprocal, because sometimes like those people aren't even aware that you're not offering the opportunity for them to truly reciprocate and connecting to you and seeing all that you are and offering witness and offering connection. And maybe you can't because you know that they wouldn't be accepting of it, which is a whole issue in and of itself. But maybe it's because you just don't know what it is about yourself yet that you like would need to expose to feel seen, or you just can't. You just are closed off. Like this goes beyond queerness, like being closed off and not knowing how to open up. Like it's just a recipe for one-sided relationships that lack reciprocity. And sometimes it's more of your issue because you don't know how to express yourself, and then they don't have the opportunity to connect to you, or sometimes you know that they will reject you. And it's just, there's so many things that can contribute, but the one thing that remains constant in those situations is like profound, immense loneliness that just is so bad. It will eat you alive. Like loneliness is something, and I know we have like a loneliness epidemic in the world, but it is so hard to see past. Like it's one of those things that when it starts to really affect you, like it feels like it's eating away at you inside. It's really hard to see, this is gonna sound bad, but it's really hard to see a future where things feel better. Because I think a lot of the time when we imagine the future, we imagine it through our connections to things and how they'll develop, or the patterns in our life. Like we use past patterns to project and like imagine a future. And if you've experienced like such long-term loneliness and you don't really have any connection currently to project into the future, like as something that'll develop, or you have hope that you'll develop other ones, you don't really have the past patterns to project that, you know, if you don't have them, imagining a future where things feel less lonely is really difficult. And that's kind of a really scary place to be, to see the future and not see one that feels less alone. I think it's one thing to be okay being alone, but loneliness it's shitty. Like, I don't know. That's all I can say, is that it's been one of those things in my life that I've really struggled with. And like, even now, I don't know, it like eats me alive sometimes, to the extent that it's hard for me to see past it, I guess. But then there's so many people around me that have it. And I think that's part of the issue, is being aware that you're lacking it and you're lacking the level of connection that others seem to have and not being able to fix it. So it's just like seeing it all around you. And it's like a constant reminder. It feels like there's something wrong with you. And it reminds me of, there's a line in East of Eden that kind of like highlights this. And in the book, they're talking about one of the main characters, this woman who's kind of like a sociopath, but the main character in the book, the guy, is saying essentially to her, I think he's saying it directly to her, but he's like, actually, let me just get the book because it's right behind me and find the quotes because I have it highlighted. Okay, one second. Okay, I knew I had this highlighted. I have a little sticky note by it because I remember rereading this part over and over again. And so he's talking to that character, and she's like a terrible person. She's like a sociopath, so she doesn't actually really care about anyone. And in it, he says to this character, the man to the woman who's like kind of crazy, he says, "I seem to know that there's a part of you missing. Some men can't see the color green, but they may never know that they can't. I think you are only part of a human. I can't do anything about that. But I wonder whether you ever feel that something invisible is all around you. It would be horrible if you knew it was there and couldn't see it or feel it. That would be horrible." I never forgot that line. I was in this cafe reading it at the time, and I just stopped because I was like, fuck, that's how I feel about everything in my life. I feel like connection is the one thing that is all around me and like kind of an arm's length, but I don't have the shape of hands to grab it. Like there's something incompatible between me and being able to connect with others, and I'm aware that it's all around me, but I can't get it. And then it reminds me of, there's another part of the book, The Well of Loneliness, that kind of echoes the same sentiment. So now from the perspective of being someone who's queer, and in it, the main character is talking to, it's like her teacher at the time, but it becomes a really close relationship between her and this woman named Puddle. But the main character is saying, "I'm not complete," she paused, unable to find the words she wanted, then blundered on again blindly. "There's a great chunk of life that I've never known, and I want to know it. I ought to know it if I'm to become a really fine writer. That's the greatest thing perhaps in the world, and I've missed it. That's what's so awful. Puddle, to know that it exists everywhere, all around me, to be constantly near it, yet always held back, to feel that the poorest people in the streets, the most ignorant people, know more than I do. And I dare to take up my pen and write, knowing less than these poor men and women in the street. Why haven't I got a right to it, Puddle? Can't you understand that I'm strong and young, so that sometimes this thing that I'm missing torments me?" Puddle's the name of the teacher that she has the relationship with. But it just, I don't know, both those things highlight the way that I felt my whole life so badly, and then also not knowing how to form those relationships. And in the comment that I had gotten with someone struggling with this, like they kind of talk about how they feel like they don't know how, once someone's kind of in front of them, they said that they don't really know how to form that into close dependent relationships. I have notes right here, which is why I'm looking at it. And I also understand that because, again, I think that you can become really good at developing one-sided friendships, but I also think that sometimes if you've spent a lot of your life lonely and you feel like you haven't even been able to form deep, authentic friendships because, say, you're closeted or you just have a part of yourself that's really guarded, that is a skill. Developing reciprocal relationships, allowing somebody else to witness you to the extent that you would need to form those close and dependent friendships, like dependent in a healthy way, not codependent. I made a video recently talking about the difference between like healthy interdependence and codependency. But when I say that, I'm talking about like healthy interdependence. That's a skill. I think that that's a literal skill that is a muscle that you have to train. And if you spend most of your life not training it, not having the opportunity to, I think that you mold that part of yourself that connects to other people in a way that is sort of incompatible with connecting with others in a very reciprocal way. Like, not that it's impossible, I just think it's like something that you have to kind of relearn, a new language that you have to learn how to speak, that people speak when they are developing really close reciprocal bonds. That is a skill. Like, that is a specific skill set to do that, and that's also a very specific kind of interaction in order to develop that kind of bond. And if you just haven't done it, I don't think it always comes that naturally if the way that you've learned, which is now your most natural way, was one that never really allowed you to fully connect to another person. So sometimes it just feels like it's a language that you don't really speak, or I think sometimes it can be easy to underestimate just how difficult it can be to just do that right off the bat when your whole life you've been trained or sort of forced to build relationships that weren't that deep or that close. And I think that contributes to the loneliness you can feel even after you come out, because I feel like a lot of the times when you come out, you'll lose a lot of relationships, or your relationships change in a way that makes them feel lost, sometimes in a significant way, sometimes in a small way that still really stings. But you're different now, right? People are seeing a new side of you, and some people will change the way that they act towards you and some won't, but some might leave altogether. Sometimes you'll sense the difference, and that's even worse, to know that they are seeing you differently, but they won't admit it. And so you're just aware of that change. Either way, it all contributes to like the loneliness I think that you can feel, and maybe the sense of rejection, and maybe the likelihood that you're going to continue to repress that part of yourself because you can feel that subtle rejection even if they're not saying it outright, or they're not leaving your life entirely. You lose a lot of connection. And even if those connections aren't always the best, maybe they're not always connections that should have been or that deserve to be the ones closest to you, if they're altering when you come out as who you truly are, it doesn't matter. Like, there's still connections, and that can still help cure that sense of loneliness and fulfill that sense of, or that deep desire for connection that I think humans often feel in general. I think we're a species who really often longs for connection and community. And I think you still, even if they're not the best relationships, if you're losing those, it's still a gaping hole in your life. And then you're left to, hopefully, if you can be in environments where you have the opportunity to connect with other people who will likely be more understanding of you, but at the very least will not reject the part of you that was being rejected before. It's suddenly I don't know, you're going to have to learn how to form that connection if you've never had it, not truly. And that just doesn't always come easily, even when you're in front of somebody who can offer that, or likely can offer that, or is a safe space to try and develop that kind of bond, that level of close, dependent, interdependent friendship or relationships. Even if someone feels like a safe person in front of you, or you intellectually know that they're a safe person to try and develop this with, I don't think that just immediately overrides sort of the emotional muscle memory that prevents you from ever feeling that connected to somebody, or feeling safe enough to open up in a way that allows you to feel the impact of being connected to. And that's something I also struggled with in my life, where sometimes even close friends, when I opened up to them, I never really felt impacted by them. And that was something I struggled with for a really long time. I think that that's a defense mechanism where sometimes from the outside, a relationship will look really strong, or it does seem really reciprocal, or they know things about me and I have opened up, but I don't feel anything, I guess. And I do think that that's another defense mechanism where even if it's been exchanged verbally, that sort of reciprocal seeing and knowing of another person or between you two, the ability to be emotionally impacted by it doesn't always, I think, follow. And so you still feel that emotional loneliness, and I do feel like it's a defense mechanism from feeling hurt if things change, and feeling that emotional pain if things change. It's kind of, I think, intellectualization versus actually feeling you're intellectually developing a bond, but your ability to feel the connection and the impact it can have on you emotionally, on your nervous system in a healthy way, where it can calm your nervous system by feeling safe with another person. That, I feel in my experience, has sometimes felt stunted. They don't, just because one comes doesn't mean the other always follows, or at least not at the same time. And I think that really is the epitome of intellectualization. And I think when you've had to stop yourself from ever really forming open, honest bonds that way, you often do intellectualize your relationships and your feelings, because you don't have a place to experience your feelings out loud in a safe way, or develop emotional connection in a safe way, or you're used to people leaving or rejecting you for opening up. So I think you just kind of develop this I don't know, I guess emotional muscle memory of not really allowing yourself to feel another person or be felt by another person, I guess, to really feel their impact. And I think deep relationships come when you give somebody the opportunity to affect you, because they can't affect you even in a positive way unless you give them the opportunity to affect you in general. And that also means opening up to the risk that it could affect you negatively. Someone could hurt you, for whatever reason. Maybe it's not because of rejecting you for a reason that you felt rejected before, your queerness in whatever way. But it doesn't mean that relationship isn't still vulnerable to hurt and pain, or being hurt by somebody. But the only way that you can develop, I think, the depth of bond in positive ways that can affect you in positive ways, by feeling safe and seen by somebody that can help you develop an earned, secure attachment to somebody, by allowing yourself the opportunity to be seen by another person and to see them. If you don't allow the opportunity at all because you're trying to prevent potentially experiencing the negative aspect that can occur. You're also preventing the positive. Like, you can't have one without the other. Like, connection will always lead to risk. If you want true, deep, honest connection, like, there will always be a risk, and it will always be vulnerable to also ending potentially negatively, affecting you negatively, because you're letting it affect you deeply. And to let it affect you deeply positively, like, that is the risk you have to take. Unfortunately, like, you can't just have one or the other. It's kind of like somebody who doesn't really matter anything to you, like, they don't matter to you at all, like, they can't hurt you the same way that somebody who matters a lot to you and who has a hold on you in some way, because you've let them in, they can hurt you way worse than somebody who doesn't have any real grasp on you, you know? Like, I think that's just kind of, unfortunately, the exchange you have to make for deep, honest, interdependent bonds is the risk that they can cause you pain and loss. And even if it's the loss of one that maybe isn't even the best one, like, you still feel like you have to repress some parts of who you are, it's still loss, and loss still hurts. I think it's why, like, sometimes when we come out of the closet, we can lose relationships that we know it's better lost than had, because they're choosing to abandon you or to see you differently in a negative way because of who you are, in a way that's not harming anyone. For example, like, say, being a lesbian, being gay, being queer, whatever it is. And you know that those relationships are not ones then that you should really hold on to. And it can still hurt really fucking bad to lose them and still feel like there's like a hole inside of you. So loss is still loss, I guess is what I'm talking about. I don't know. I've experienced loneliness in my life, I think, in a way that has made it really difficult for me to sometimes imagine a future where it isn't always like pervasive, I guess, in my life experiences. I actually, like, when I was thinking about this and I was reading those lines from the two different books, I was reading the lines from The Well of Loneliness. I just thought about the East of Eden line, but it reminded me of, like, last year in, like, I think it was February 9th, 2024. I was rereading old journals, and I remembered this entry when I was rereading it, and I'm literally talking about the same thing over and over again throughout this whole journal, but I'm talking about how I always feel like there's a wall that I can't seem to get past or climb, and I'm always seeing other people on the other side of it. And one of the things that I say, like, in this journal at the time, which I think speaks to this, is, I'm just going to read it. This is kind of weird, right, to read your journal entry, but I don't know, just to say how this has affected me my whole life and it never changes. But this is what I said. When I'm out, I become nothing more than that of an observer, dying to feel the way in which the person and people next to me seem to. Instead, I feel as though I am in a constant state of observation. And then another part of it says, I feel so far from anything I am when I am with them, because I am on the other side of the wall, always watching and never being. And the them that I'm talking about is just anyone that I was with ever, the people that I was with. And the concept of, like, watching and never being, I think, just speaks to the way that I'm always, like, offering connection, but I'm never the person, like, opening up presently in the moment to be connected to. And I have a million journal entries talking about the same thing. I have them recently. I've, like, really struggled with this recently, especially because I've spent a lot of time around straight people, and it's really making me remember just how lonely that can be. And I don't even think it's not purposeful. Like, some of these people are being outright homophobic in a way that is shitty. I made a video recently talking about it. Like, if you're interested, it's like my fake gay video. It's a couple of videos ago, but there's some shitty aspects that have come with being around straight people that have definitely contributed to that, like, sense of deep loneliness and isolation in a room full of people, but also around people that I think, like, I am friends with genuinely, but there's a level of connection that never seems to be able to be reached with people who aren't also queer. I think it's because it's been so pervasive in my life, because it got bigger and bigger in the way that it impacted me, because it went from just something that I am to something that impacted every single thing that I experienced, because I was experiencing it while actively knowing that I had to repress this part of myself. So for most of my life, until I really came out of the closet at, like, 21, all of the relationships that I formed were with that knowing, and so they were all affected. My family relationships, the friendships that I had, any romantic relationships that I had, every relationship that you can have was, like, I was always aware in the back of my mind that there was a depth to it that I couldn't reach. And so it affected everything that I did in every way. It goes beyond your relationships. It goes a lot further than that. But the community that you can find. And then when I did come out and I like had the opportunity to make friendships that were with people who would understand, I feel like I didn't know how to. And it took me a long time to make a friend. I had a childhood best friend from high school that I felt like really understood me even when I came out. And she's straight, but I felt that with. And then I made a really close friend after I came out, who I'm really close with now. And I was just visiting her the other day, and she's like the first person after I came out. And I didn't become friends with her until I was like almost 23. So it was not right after I came out. It was not like easy. It was an active effort on her part that it was her that made the relationship reciprocal, the friendship. And I was talking to her about it the other day because I went and visited her, and she was just saying that I've changed a lot, and that I seem like a lot more open to people and connection. And she was saying that being around me before was kind of difficult only because she said that I was really slippery. Like I was doing everything for everyone, and I knew everything about everyone, and I had like a lot of relationships and friendships, but no one knew anything about me. And she was just saying that it was hard to hold me down long enough to learn anything about me, because I would always find a way to deflect it onto the other person and learn about them. And she was just noting that most people don't care. Like they liked that, which is fine. You know, like I'm offering that. I don't see that as something malicious. She's like, but they don't even realize that they're doing it. And so like I watched you have all these relationships where you would just slip away from being connected to. And when I tried to connect with you, like it was actually kind of difficult at first to get you to answer questions versus being the one asking them. And I just didn't realize like how much I pushed away the concept I pushed away the capacity for connection. And it's funny because at that point in my life, I would have thought that maybe I was in a place where I should be able to form them. And I think that's why I realize now that it's a skill that maybe I lacked, because I thought maybe I had the potential for it and I was able to do it. I didn't realize like I was so outright avoiding it until a long time passed. And then even now when she points it out, I guess it puts into perspective for me that I've struggled a lot with forming reciprocal relationships, even in the moments that I've been able to, like with her. If it wasn't for her, like making a really active effort when we were together to like make it reciprocal in conversation, that would have never happened. And I was just completely unaware of the fact that I was struggling to open up to that kind of bond. I guess it was really like emotional muscle memory to not, and to offer that connection to another person, but to avoid at all costs being connected to. I don't know. It's really affected me my whole life. It still does. I felt that being around straight people a lot recently. Like the depth of loneliness that you can feel around people like that. It's overwhelming at times. But I seem to spend time around like my gay friends more. But it's bad. Like, I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for this. Like I wish I could say that, you know, it just like gets better overnight, or I don't know, you'll find those people that you can connect to and they'll be in front of you. But I don't even think it's always that. It's about learning how to form those connections. And sometimes that takes like really making an effort to figure out how to do that. And that sometimes takes like genuine learning. Like I think going to therapy a lot helped me get there. Reading about relationships and like how to have reciprocal relationships. This was something I would Google and stay up at night thinking about. Like it didn't come naturally to me. I think that the right person can be in front of you and you can still not know how to form that kind of bond. But I don't think that means that you're banished to a place where you are never capable of forming that kind of bond. I think it just takes an awareness that maybe you're not opening up to it in the right way, or you're not forming it in a way that would allow that, maybe because you're not used to it. And it can be a learning experience, you know, it can take like a really active effort, and it doesn't always come necessarily naturally. Like relationships are work, but I don't think that means it has to be negative. I think it just means that not everything just happens, you know, like things don't really just happen to you. A lot of the times, like you have to make things happen. Obviously this is not applicable to everything, but I'm talking about when trying to form, I guess, like a close relational bond. You have to make it happen. And if you haven't really in the past, like that's going to be a learning experience and like a learning curve. And that can feel like work and hard work, and relationships should just like feel like they fall into place and fill this space in your life and be great and wonderful. But if you don't know how to open up the space where they can even fill them, you can't feel that connection. But I do believe that those people will come into your life that offer you the capacity and the safety to begin opening up in a way that allows you to feel connection, even if it's still like a learning experience and it's going to take an active effort to learn how to form that kind of bond. I truly, without a shadow of doubt in my mind, believe that you will attract in one way or another and be found by those people that offer you the safety and opportunity to do that, even if it's still difficult to do and the relationship doesn't always come like seamlessly, and there's some stumbling. I still think that you'll find those people and you'll have a safe space to learn how to do that. And maybe that's enough. I guess sometimes it's enough just to know that somebody is there when you're ready to open up, and they're going to be someone safe to open up to, even if you're working through the really deeply embedded, often irrational fear that it's unsafe to open up to anyone. But I still think you'll find the people that intellectually you can at least cling to the knowing that they are safe, and eventually fight through and work through the irrational, almost internal prevention point inside of you that tells you can't, though. I think that that's true. But I don't think it always comes easily, and I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I guess nothing worth having comes easy. Is that the line? I also hate that, but in this case, I don't know. I think that can be true in this case and untrue for others. Maybe it's hypocritical. I don't know, I have kind of a hypocritical view on things sometimes. Like, I like the concept of like everything happens for a reason, or I like the concept of fate, but I also only like it hypocritically, because I also don't think everything happens for a reason, and I don't always believe in fate when it comes to things that are really evil and bad, and imagining a future maybe for yourself where things never get better. I like the concept of fate when it comes to the belief that your life is always going to end better. I think that's a nice fated idea, while also hypocritically denying that fate exists when it's talked about when it's pointing to a fated, shitty experience. I don't know. I don't really care. I guess sometimes hypocrisy is fine by me in cases like this. If you can cling to some fated cosmic idea that can give you some hope, then I think cling to it. And maybe when it comes to relationships, like cling to that sort of maybe fated, like silly cosmic idea that they will come to you and you'll find a way to connect to others in a way that feels genuinely close. Maybe that sounds stupid. I don't know. But I think that's kind of what I've clung to my whole life. And it's come at different times. That friend that I have, I love so much. And I'm so thankful and so lucky to have met her. And maybe it's not like tens of people that I've had that experience with, but I don't need that. I just needed one person, and it changed my entire perspective on potential for that connection one day. And so at least I do have proof of concept, maybe if you need it, that this can happen and it can be something that finds you and you experience. And I believe that it will, if that's what you want. And loneliness comes and goes, I guess. Everything in life is semi-permanent. So that helps me when I think, damn, am I damned to feel lonely forever? No, because everything in life fades and nothing lasts forever. The only thing permanent, I guess, is, I don't know. But nothing in life is completely permanent, usually. That maybe can help. I don't know. Now I'm just kind of rambling. But I've definitely struggled with loneliness. I'm struggling with it right now in a way that I haven't in a really long time. And it's slowly getting a little bit better, but it was really bad. It was really bad. The past couple months, it was just, I don't know. I feel like it was eating me alive. And I'm trying to remind myself that just because it feels that way right now doesn't mean that close relationships can't come in the future. And I think sometimes it can be enough to know that they've come before and that they can come again, and that they will. And maybe that can help ease some of the loneliness that can feel excruciating in the moment. That's kind of what I'm clinging to right now. So, I don't know. I'm not sure if this is kind of just annoying. maybe it's helpful or maybe it sounds like really dramatic, but to be completely honest, like the intensity of loneliness or like the impact of loneliness in my life has always felt kind of dramatic in the intensity, I guess. I don't know if I could describe it in a way that doesn't seem dramatic. It's always felt like a dramatic effect on me. I feel like it's really shaped me. Like my loneliness has really shaped me. So I think that contributes to why I like struggle with making reciprocal connections when that's what you get used to. It's like a resting state, but it's not a resting state forever, I guess. I don't know. I just don't want to end this with the idea that like loneliness is an ever present experience. I don't think that that's true, and I don't think it will be true. And maybe people aren't directly in front of you to offer that sense of safety and connection and security to be known and seen. But I truly hope that this can be a space for you to share yourself that way, to offer the opportunity to be witnessed, to let others witness you, even if it's online, even if it's digitally, even if it's not exactly the kind of connection that you would need or you would want right now to really heal that experience of loneliness or need that proof of concept that hope exists, you can find that connection. But I still hope that it can be a space where you have the opportunity to talk about yourself in a way that maybe you really wish someone would ask you to talk about, and know that you're being seen, even if it's not directly right in front of you. You are being seen. I'm reading it. And if it's in a comment, others are reading it too. That's like a really common message I get, is people saying that the comments have a really big impact on them to feel less alone. So know that if you are sharing anything on there, like you are being seen. And I hope you can use this as a safe space to do that and maybe practice opening up to others. Again, it's something you have to practice. It's like a skill you have to learn, a muscle you have to train. So maybe this can be a place to do it and like feel like you're productively working towards learning how to form those bonds where you are also seen. This is a safe space for you if you want to use it. I moderate the comments really heavily to make sure of that, so that no one's a terrible person or cruel. So share whatever you feel like you must share to feel known, and know that you're being seen, if by anyone, at least me, so that's one person. You can send it to me directly if there's anything you want to talk about to feel like you are being known in a way that would make you feel less doomed to feel lonely. You can send it to me directly and I'll read it. I'd be honored to read it. That is down below. My email is down below, or you can send a message to me anywhere. Or I can upload it to my website if you want to submit something that you want like uploaded for more people to see. Or if you want others to see it, and me as well, you can leave it in a comment. So, okay, I guess that's it. This video is way longer than I thought, but loneliness is something that haunts me way longer than I hoped it would. So, but it won't forever. It will come and go. It's semi-permanent. It will happen again and it will fade and it will happen again, and that's okay. That's okay. That doesn't feel like like a death sentence. It just feels like an is what it is moment that I can handle, but okay. I guess I'll end it here and just want to say one more time that you will find the connections that give you the opportunity to feel connected to and to connect with others and experience that reciprocal connection. And if you ever want to talk about it more, or if there's like another angle of this topic or this video that you think would be helpful to talk about, please tell me. I'd love to talk about it more. I think this can be talked about from so many angles, or even like how to develop these relationships. I can talk about how I learned to, like with that friend, like what I learned when it came to developing, like from a skill set perspective, that reciprocal relationship, that genuinely I feel like a toolbox in my head now to try and do that. So if you want to talk about that, let me know and I'll make a video talking about that. Okay, I think that's it. I have to go because I'm baking today for a friend. I'm not a very good baker at all, but I need to probably go buy some baking stuff, so I should probably go. So thank you for watching, for listening to me ramble about loneliness and the experience of it and the different ways that I've experienced it, and the different books that I think of when I think of it. So I appreciate that. I have a Patreon if you're interested. I make videos over there that are a little bit more mature. The last two that I uploaded one was about consent trauma related to having your consent violated, and then another one was about perfectionism and gender exploration and expression in relation to sexuality and sex, if you're interested in that. Told kind of a funny story over there. Anyways, that'll be down below if you're interested. They're a little bit more mature. And yeah, okay. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day. And I hope you feel a little bit more connected too, if you felt alone in this before, through watching this. Maybe comforted to know you're not alone. And okay, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.